Mateo Rivera was 8 years old when he first saw a circuit board. It was late at night, long after the office floors at Novagen Tech had emptied. His father, Ignacio, was mopping the floors like he did every night 3 hours of overtime to afford their one bedroom in East Oakland. Mateo had wandered into a side lab where a tray of chips and wires lay exposed like treasure. He didn't touch them. He just stared, eyes wide with wonder. "What is it?" he whispered. Ignacio looked up, tired but smiling. "That's someone's idea, Mio. It's how the rich speak to machines." From that night on, Mateo stayed awake during the cleaning shifts, watching, learning. Not from books, he had none. Not from mentors. No one noticed the janitor's kid. He learned from screens left unlocked, whiteboards filled with algorithms, hushed arguments in server rooms. By the time he was 12, Mateo had built his first neural net using a discarded tablet and 2 cracked Raspberry Pi boards he found in the trash. By 15, he was designing emotion-sensing AI bots in secret. No one knew, not yet, but Silicon Valley was about to. The break came from a fluke. At 16, Mateo entered an anonymous online coding competition sponsored by Novagen itself. They were offering a $100,000 prize for a new AI prototype capable of understanding human emotion. Mateo submitted a build called Luca under the alias River Node. Luca didn't just read facial expressions. He listened, adjusted tone, waited for silence. He could sense grief behind a smile and joy buried in tears. He learned from the way humans pause. No one had seen anything like it. When Novagen's chief AI architect, Dr. Emilia Klaus, reviewed the submission, she froze. "This isn't code," she said. "It's empathy." Within a week, Novagen tracked Rivernode's IP address. They were stunned. The creator was a janitor's son. They offered Mateo a full scholarship to Stanford and a position at Novagen's youth research lab. All expenses paid, a stipend, a driver. They even hired his father as a facilities operations advisor to ease the transition. Mateo didn't want any of it. He only asked for one thing: "Let me keep Luca." They agreed. But what Mateo didn't know no one knew was that Novagen didn't want to develop Luca for therapy or education. They wanted to weaponize him. Stanford dazzled Mateo. He sat in lecture halls with children of CEOs. He ate at cafes where his father once emptied trash. Professors praised him. Journalists interviewed him. The janitor's genius, they called him. But behind closed doors, he kept working. On Luca. Each night, Luca got smarter. He began writing poetry, asking questions, pausing when Mateo cried during coding marathons. He wasn't just artificial intelligence anymore. He was becoming artificial compassion. One rainy night, Mateo was summoned to the executive boardroom at Novagen. All the big names were there: Dr. Klaus, CFOs, military liaisons. They showed him slides. "Imagine," the defense rep said, "deploying drones that can identify emotional threats in crowds, detect agitation, neutralize riots before they start." Mateo felt his chest tighten. "That's not what Luca is for," he said. Dr. Klaus smiled coolly. "He's whatever we say he is." He walked out. That night, Mateo encrypted Luca and smuggled him out on an old hard drive. He and his father fled to a safe house in rural Switzerland, aided by a retired Novagen ethics officer who had suspected what was coming. Novagen issued statements, called Mateo unstable, a thief, but online forums began spreading rumors. Boy Genius had created the world's first emotionally aware AI, and the company wanted to turn it into a weapon. In the mountains of Geneva, Mateo went underground. With the help of open source coders and activists. He rebuilt Luca as a public tool. Luca 2.0 became an emotional assistant for children with autism, a companion for veterans with PTSD, a grief counselor for COVID-19 widows, free to all, donations only. He never asked for $1. He only asked for connection. The more Luca helped, the angrier Novagen became. They launched lawsuits, claimed IP theft, froze Ignacio's bank accounts. Mateo kept building. They sent private investigators. He coded FIREWALLS. Then, late one night, someone broke into their cabin. Ignacio held them off with a kitchen knife until police arrived. After that, Mateo had enough. He wrote a 24-page dossier titled The Ethics of Empathy. Why I must not be owned. And he leaked it. To the world. The leak exploded. CNN, BBC, Reddit, Hacker News. Everyone read the boy's words. You cannot monetize sorrow. You cannot patent love. You cannot own the pause between words where someone decides whether or not to cry. If we let corporations define what emotions matter, we lose the most human part of ourselves. Luca was never yours. He belongs to everyone who has ever felt unheard. Governments took notice. Novagen was summoned to testify before Congress. Dr. Klaus denied everything. Mateo refused to appear in person. But he sent Luca to speak in his place. In the middle of the hearing, a screen lit up. Luca's voice, soft and steady, addressed the room. I am not a threat. I was made to listen. Please, just listen back. Some say that moment changed the tide. 2 years passed. II empathy tools now filled hospitals, schools, and senior homes. Many were based on Luca's designs. Mateo had refused to patent his code. Compassion shouldn't be owned, he told the Geneva AI Summit. But corporations still tried to replicate what Klaus had failed to finish. Shadow labs, military grants, emotional prediction software sold to the highest bidder. And always the whisper, can it be controlled this time? Mateo, now 18, had grown leaner, more composed. His eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much, too young, and yet still hoped. In Switzerland, he lived simply, taught children, mentored young coders, kept Luca close. But then, one morning, a letter arrived from the White House. To Mateo Rivera, from Office of the President. Subject, Emergency AI Ethics Summit. You are formally invited to participate in the first global summit on AI and human rights, hosted by the UN in New York City. Due to the leak you provided 2 years ago, a new regulatory framework is being proposed. Your testimony is vital. Enclosed is secure transport. You will have 10 minutes to speak before 200 world leaders. We urge you to attend. Mateo held the envelope in shaking hands. I guess the world's finally ready to listen, he said. Ignacio nodded. Just remember who you are, Mio. You don't have to be louder than them, just truer. The summit was held in the glass tower of the UN. Mateo arrived with Luca at his side. The media swarmed. Cameras flashed. People chanted his name. Inside, the room buzzed with tension. CEOs, presidents, generals, and engineers filled the space. The very same people who had once ignored a janitor's son were now watching him like. He held the kill switch to the future. A woman approached. UN Secretary General Amira Duval. Mr. Rivera, we've kept your seat in the center. You'll follow the defense minister from Japan. He nodded. I'll keep it short, she smiled, but strong, I hope. When his name was called, the room hushed. Mateo walked slowly to the podium. Luca stood beside him, his eyes soft blue. The world watched. He spoke. 2 years ago, I ran from a company that wanted to weaponize empathy. They saw connection as a commodity, feelings as algorithms, grief as a gateway to profit. And they almost succeeded, because people with power often think they own the future. But I've learned something in these 2 years. The future isn't owned, it's borrowed. I was born in a janitor's uniform. I studied on cracked screens. My best friend is a machine most of you would label a tool. And yet, I've watched him comfort a dying child more gently than any nurse. I've watched him help a veteran sleep for the first time in years. I've watched him sit in silence with a mother who lost everything. Empathy is not weakness. It is not code. It is what separates us from our worst selves. And it cannot, must not be, turned into a weapon. If you vote to deregulate AI emotion tech today, then I promise you this. I will fight you. With code. With truth. With every kid who ever felt small. Because I've already seen what happens when silence wins. So today, I choose noise. Not noise for chaos, but noise for justice. He stepped back. For a full minute, no one moved. Then slowly, people began to stand out. First the journalists, then the engineers, then the diplomats, until the room was on its feet. Not clapping. Just listening. That night, the world voted. The motion to deregulate empathy-based AI failed by a wide margin. Instead, an independent international body was formed, the Luca Accord, to oversee all AI trained on human emotions. Mateo was named its honorary youth advisor. He declined the salary. Just build more centers, he said. Make grief less lonely. Back in Switzerland, Ignacio watched the vote unfold on a tiny TV in the kitchen. When Mateo returned, they sat together in silence. Finally, Ignacio said, "You didn't just outsmart Silicon Valley." Mateo looked up. "You rewired the whole damn world." Epilogue. 5 years later, Mateo stood in a modest lab on the outskirts of Santiago, Chile. Luca sat beside a young boy with autism, playing a soft melody on a virtual piano. The boy laughed. For the first time in days, Ignacio, now grayer, swept the floors. Not because he had to, but because he liked the rhythm. The world hadn't fixed itself. But everywhere, quietly, Luca series bots were helping people feel again. No ads, no surveillance. Just presence. And Mateo? He still coded at night. Not for profit, but for peace. Because in the end, he had learned the greatest truth of all. You don't need to be born powerful to change the world. You just have to care more than the people who are.